James stepped into the grand hall, his heart racing beneath the heavy weight of a tuxedo that suddenly felt suffocating. The polished floor gleamed under the chandeliers, but his thoughts were a storm. He heard the faint rustle of silk, Emma's gown whispering across the aisle. But before his smile could form, a cry erupted. It was not joy, not applause, but the raw, sharp wail of a baby. His head snapped toward the doors, confusion slicing through his chest. Guests gasped, turning to see a nurse enter, clutching a child against her chest. "James Walker," she whispered, her voice trembling like broken glass. "This child carries your blood." His breath left him in a rush. Emma froze, veil trembling in her hands. The world tilted as if someone had shattered the floor beneath his feet. His throat closed, words refusing to form, until one hoarse whisper slipped out. "Impossible!" James felt his knees weaken as silence spread across the hall. Emma's bouquet dropped, petals scattering like broken promises. The nurse's voice still echoed, sharp and unrelenting, cutting through the stunned crowd. He struggled to form words, but each attempt collapsed into nothing. Emma's father, Richard, stepped forward, eyes narrowed, anger flaring like fire. "What does this mean?" he demanded, his tone shattering the air. James opened his mouth, but Emma whispered, "Tell me it isn't true." The child's cry filled the gaps between heartbeats. James' pulse pounded in his ears. Every gaze in the room burned into him, every shadow growing longer, heavier. His world, once steady, now crumbled under the weight of a secret he didn't understand. The silence shattered, as whispers spread like wildfire. Guests leaned closer, their murmurs sharp, suffocating. James' breath came ragged, each sound louder than the music that had ceased. Emma's hands shook as she whispered, "Why now?" Richard's glare carved into James, unyielding, furious. The nurse held the baby closer, her expression a mix of sorrow and duty. "The truth always finds its way," she murmured. James staggered back, searching for escape, but there was none. His name hung in the air, tied now to a child, to a truth he could not escape. The chandeliers above flickered as if echoing the chaos unraveling below. James pressed a hand to his forehead, his thoughts collapsing into fragments. Emma's tears shimmered like shattered glass, her voice trembling. "How could you?" His lips parted, but no defense emerged. Richard's anger thundered, "This is shameful!" Guests gasped louder, the weight of judgment suffocating. The nurse's voice steadied. "This child's father is here, and his name is James Walker." James felt his body stiffen, his voice cracking. "This isn't possible." The baby's cry pierced again, relentless, pulling at his chest with cruel force. Every corner of the hall felt colder, heavier, suffocating. The room spun, the sound of whispers now a storm. James' knees buckled, his breath shallow, his heart like a drum against his ribs. Emma dropped to a pew, clutching her gown as tears poured freely. Richard barked, "This wedding is over." His words echoed like thunder. The nurse rocked the baby gently, whispering, "The truth cannot be buried." James' throat burned as he whispered again, "Impossible." His world collapsed under the weight of truth and shame. Every gaze became a dagger. His future, once filled with vows and love, now cracked open into a nightmare. James sat alone in the side chamber of the church, the sounds of chaos muffled by thick wooden doors. His reflection in the stained glass seemed broken, fractured by colored light. He whispered, "How could this be me?" His thoughts tore between disbelief and shame. He remembered nights of recklessness, choices he thought forgotten. Emma's eyes haunted him, blue with betrayal. His chest tightened with fear of losing her. The baby's cry still rang in his memory, cruel and relentless. He wanted to deny it, but a seed of doubt gnawed at him. Richard's anger echoed, crushing him further. James bowed his head, whispering, "I never asked for this, but maybe I deserve it." Emma entered slowly, her gown whispering across stone tiles. Her face was streaked with tears, but her voice was sharp. "Tell me it isn't true, James." His throat closed, words choking in silence. He wanted to reach for her, but his hand froze midair. She stepped back, flinching. The distance between them felt like a canyon. Emma's voice cracked. "I trusted you," James whispered. "I don't know how. I didn't know." Her tears fell, but her anger burned brighter. The baby's cry carried faintly through the door, slicing through their broken silence. Emma whispered bitterly, "That child already took everything from us." Emma turned away, her veil brushing against the wooden pew. James' voice broke. "I never wanted to hurt you." His words echoed hollowly, disbelief in his own tone. Emma whispered, "You broke me." He stood, reaching toward her, but she stiffened like marble. Shame drenched him as he remembered his father's abandonment. "I swore I'd never be like him," he murmured. Emma's tears blurred her vision as she clutched her gown tighter. The baby's wail returned, faint but sharp, and James pressed his hand to his chest as if stabbed. He whispered, "Maybe this is my punishment." Richard stormed into the chamber, his presence filling the space with fire. "You've disgraced us," he thundered. Emma shrank against the wall, torn between father and fiancé. James clenched his fists but could not speak. Richard's glare pierced him like a blade. "That child is proof of your betrayal," he spat. James whispered, "I didn't know." Richard's voice cracked like thunder. "Ignorance is no defense." Emma covered her ears, tears streaming. The baby's cry seeped under the door again, the sound impossible to ignore. James' chest heaved as he whispered, "I never wanted this." Richard growled, "But you made it real." The chamber fell silent as Richard stormed out, his footsteps echoing. Emma leaned against the wall, whispering, "I don't know who you are anymore." James stood motionless, the words cutting deeper than any blow. He remembered his mother's tears from years ago, her voice begging his father to stay. The same shame now chained him, history repeating. James whispered, "I swore I'd never be him." Emma's gaze, broken yet fierce, met his. "But you are," she said, her voice trembling. The cry of the baby beyond the door grew louder, filling the silence, binding James to a truth he could not outrun. The church was empty now, its silence louder than the earlier storm. James sat slumped on a pew, shadows stretching across his face. He whispered, "Everyone's gone." His voice trembled with despair. Emma had left without a word, her gown trailing like a ghost. Richard's last glare still burned in his mind, cold and condemning. James pressed his hands together, trembling, searching for strength he did not have. The baby's cry echoed faintly in memory, relentless and cruel. He closed his eyes, whispering, "What am I supposed to do?" His heart pounded, and for the first time he feared he was truly alone. Outside, whispers swirled among the guests like a poisonous fog. Women clutched pearls, men shook heads, voices sharp with judgment. "How shameful," one muttered. Another hissed, "He ruined her life." James stepped outside, hearing every word pierce his chest. He lifted his chin but could not meet their eyes. A child pointed, whispering to her mother, "That's him." His ears burned, his throat raw with unshed words. He wanted to scream, but silence chained him. Their stares weighed heavier than stone, branding him guilty. His soul shrank under the cruel weight of society's scorn. James stumbled down the stone steps, his hands trembling. A hand gripped his arm, his friend Michael, eyes cold. "You should leave," Michael muttered. James froze, whispering, "You believe them too?" Michael's jaw tightened. "You brought this on yourself." James' heart cracked. The man who once stood beside him now turned away, shaking his head. "I can't be part of this scandal." James felt abandoned, as if the ground had crumbled beneath him. He whispered, "I never asked for this." Michael did not answer, only walked away into the shadows, leaving James standing in the dying light, utterly forsaken. Night crept in, and James wandered through empty streets lit by flickering lamps. His reflection in dark shop windows showed a stranger, eyes hollow, jaw tight. He muttered, "What have I become?" The whispers of earlier still clung to his ears, echoing with every step. He remembered Emma's tears, Richard's fury, Michael's betrayal. Each memory weighed like chains. The baby's face flashed in his mind, innocent yet damning. He pressed his fists against his temples, whispering, "I can't carry this." Yet the cries in his memory grew louder, pulling him back. He realized escape was impossible. James stopped at the edge of the square, breath visible in cold night air. The church bells rang in the distance, their sound hollow. He whispered, "I'm trapped." His body trembled, torn between running and returning. Suddenly he heard footsteps. The nurse appeared, baby cradled against her chest. Her voice was calm but unyielding. "You can't run from truth." James' eyes filled with tears as he whispered, "I don't know how to be anything." She placed the baby gently in his arms. Its warmth struck him like lightning, fragile yet powerful. James whispered, "I never wanted this, but maybe I need it." James stood frozen in the square, the baby pressed against his chest. Its warmth was unfamiliar, fragile, terrifying. The nurse's eyes stayed locked on him, her voice steady. "You deserve the truth." His stomach twisted as he whispered, "What truth?" She hesitated, then added, "This child's mother was not who you think." His pulse spiked, air thick in his throat. Shadows seemed to press closer. He whispered, "What are you saying?" The nurse's eyes filled with guilt. "Someone close to you hid this. Someone you trusted most." His knees weakened, dread coiling in his chest. The square felt colder, silence pressing like stone. James' voice cracked. "Who?" The nurse looked down, her hands trembling. "Emma knew," she whispered. His breath caught, chest burning. "No, she couldn't." The baby shifted, its tiny fist brushing against his suit, grounding him in horror. The nurse whispered, "She hid this to protect her family's name." "How? Unbornly. Mr. Jousfell. Awire. Adridri. Hadn't paid it stall." James shook his head, gripping the baby tighter. His voice rose, raw. "She lied to me. She let me stand there in front of everyone." The nurse's eyes glistened. She thought she could bury it. The words cut deeper than any blade. James staggered back, his body trembling with fury. His whisper turned to a roar. "Emma betrayed me." The baby's cry pierced the night, echoing his rage. The nurse's voice cracked. She thought it was Mercy. His hands shook as he clutched the child, breath coming in ragged bursts. "Mercy," he shouted. "She destroyed me." Images of Emma's eyes, her tears, her words, rushed back like knives. The nurse whispered, "The child was never meant to be yours." His blood froze, chest collapsing inward. He gasped, "What are you saying?" The truth was now unbearable, but it was only beginning. The nurse's voice broke, trembling with sorrow. "This child is not yours, James. The real father is Richard's son, Emma's brother." His body stiffened as if struck by lightning. His breath stopped, disbelief etched deep. "No, no, that can't be." The nurse nodded slowly. She was protecting her family, protecting him. James staggered, knees nearly buckling. "She lied to me. She let me carry this shame." His chest heaved, voice raw with betrayal. The baby whimpered, pressing against his chest, innocent in the storm. His voice cracked. "Everything I thought I knew is gone." James sank onto the cold stone steps, the baby still in his arms. His hands trembled, tears sliding down his face. "She knew, all this time." His whisper echoed in the empty night. The nurse placed a hand on his shoulder, whispering, "Secrets rot families from within." James rocked the child gently, his body breaking under the truth. "I thought this child was my punishment," he said softly, "but it was never even mine." His tears fell on the baby's cheek, glistening in the moonlight. "I've lost everything," he whispered, his voice hollow, broken beyond repair. James pushed open the doors of Richard's estate, baby still in his arms, fury burning through exhaustion. The grand hall glowed with golden lamps, but the warmth felt like fire scorching him alive. Richard stood near the fireplace, stiff in his dark suit, while Emma sat trembling on a velvet chair. Her eyes lifted, red with tears, guilt carved into every line of her face. James' voice cracked the silence. "Tell me the truth, Emma." "All of it." Emma's lips quivered, but no words came. Richard's eyes narrowed, his voice sharp as steel. "You already know. Leave us before you ruin more." James roared, "This is already ruin." Emma rose, her gown dragging across the polished floor. "I wanted to protect him," she whispered, eyes glassy. James' voice shook with rage. "Protect him? You destroyed me." She clutched her chest. If the truth came out, our family would be ruined. Richard's jaw tightened, his glare locking on James. "You are not family. You were never meant to know." James trembled, his voice breaking. "You used me as a shield." Emma's tears fell. "I loved you, but I couldn't let it happen." The baby whimpered, echoing the chaos. James shook, torn between fury and collapse. Richard stepped forward, his voice thundering. "Put the child down. He is not yours." James' body stiffened, clutching tighter, his voice raw. "He may not be mine, but he's not yours either." Emma gasped, covering her mouth. Richard's face darkened, veins standing out on his temples. "You will not speak of this again. The scandal ends here." James' eyes flashed, defiance breaking through despair. "You don't own the truth." The baby whimpered louder, pressing against his chest. James whispered, "You can bury me, but you won't bury him." Silence crashed over the hall, heavy as stone. Emma collapsed into sobs, falling to her knees. "I didn't want this," she cried. James' chest heaved, eyes locked on Richard. "You lied to protect him, and now you're destroying her." Richard's voice cracked like a whip. "Enough!" He slammed his fist against the mantel, flames leaping higher. James flinched but did not move. Emma wailed, "Please stop!" Her tears streamed, her voice shredded. The baby's cries joined hers, filling the hall with unbearable sound. James whispered fiercely, "This ends tonight. The truth is mine to carry, not yours to bury." His words rang like a vow. Richard advanced, voice deadly calm. "If you walk out with that child, you'll destroy us all." James' grip tightened, tears streaking his face, but his eyes blazed. "You destroyed yourselves when you chose lies." Emma reached out weakly, whispering, "James, don't." He turned to her, his voice trembling with love and fury. "I gave you everything, and you gave me nothing but ashes." The baby quieted in his arms, eyes closing, as if the storm had spent itself. James stepped back toward the door, his voice breaking but resolute. "I won't let him grow in shadows." The night stretched into silence as James stepped out of Richard's estate, the heavy doors shutting behind him like the end of a chapter. The baby stirred faintly in his arms, a soft whimper replacing the earlier storm of cries. He stopped in the courtyard, chest heaving, unsure whether to walk forward or collapse where he stood. The stars glimmered faintly above, fragile reminders of a sky that had seen countless tragedies before his. His hands trembled, but he tightened his hold around the small body pressed against him. "I don't know who I am anymore," he whispered. The words disappeared into the cool air, swallowed by the night. His mind replayed Emma's sobs, Richard's fury, the nurse's revelation, each sound cutting deeper into the hollow spaces of his heart. He sank onto the cold stone steps, the weight of the child heavy, not just in his arms but in his soul. He stared ahead, unable to imagine tomorrow, yet knowing the choice he made tonight would decide everything that came after. James walked slowly through the sleeping town, each footstep echoing across cobblestone streets. His body was weary, his arms stiff from holding the child, but he could not let go. Lanterns flickered in windows, faint reminders of families asleep, untouched by the storm consuming him. He thought of Emma, her broken whispers begging him to stop, and his chest clenched with grief. He thought of Richard, eyes like iron, determined to bury the truth at any cost. The nurse's voice still rang in his head, unyielding. Secrets rot families from within. He looked down at the baby, eyes closed in peaceful slumber, oblivious to the chaos it had created. His lips trembled as he whispered, "You don't deserve this. None of this." His voice cracked, tears slipping down his face. The weight of responsibility pressed harder, binding him to a destiny he had never chosen. Yet with every step he knew he carried more than a child. He carried the truth that could not be erased. By dawn, James found himself standing at the edge of the churchyard, where the silence was broken only by the call of distant birds. The world looked calmer, yet inside him, storms still raged. He leaned against the stone wall, the baby nestled against his chest, warm and fragile. He remembered his father's absence, his mother's sobs, the emptiness that had shaped his childhood. He whispered, "I swore I wouldn't be him." His breath caught, body trembling as the weight of the past bore down. He thought of Emma's words, her desperate attempt to shield her family's name, and his heart ached with betrayal. The baby stirred, opening tiny eyes, and for a fleeting moment, James felt a spark of something unfamiliar. Hope. His hands shook, but he pressed the child closer, whispering, "If I can't save myself, maybe I can save you." The rising sun painted the sky gold and crimson, casting light across his tear-streaked face, daring him to take the first step toward redemption. Later that morning, the nurse found James seated on a weathered bench outside the church, the baby sleeping peacefully in his arms. Her expression was heavy but her voice soft. "You don't have to do this alone." James looked at her, eyes red, face pale, his lips trembling. "I don't know how to do it at all," he whispered. The nurse placed a hand on his shoulder, steady and firm. "No one ever does, but it isn't about knowing. It's about choosing." James turned his gaze back to the child, every feature fragile, unknowing, innocent. His heart ached, but his grip tightened as if the baby anchored him. "If I choose wrong?" he asked softly. The nurse's eyes glistened. "Then you stand back up, and you choose again." James' throat burned, his tears falling silently. The world around them was quiet, still, as though waiting for his decision. He whispered, "Then I'll choose to stay." James walked into the small chapel, the baby resting quietly in his arms. Sunlight streamed through stained glass, scattering colors across the wooden pews. He paused at the altar, heart pounding, tears still streaking his cheeks. "I don't know if I can be what you need," he whispered to the child. His voice echoed softly in the sacred silence. "But I will not walk away." He lowered his head, body shaking, as if laying his soul bare before something greater. The baby stretched, tiny fingers brushing his chin, and James felt his breath hitch. The world outside was filled with betrayal, judgment, and loss, but here, in this fragile moment, he felt the possibility of something more. He pressed the baby close, whispering, "You will not be abandoned, not by me." His vow carried through the empty church, a fragile promise forged in pain and hope, binding him to a path he had never imagined but could no longer deny. James stepped out of the chapel, the morning light washing his face in fractured hues. The streets were empty, but silence carried the memory of whispers and shame. He walked slowly, the baby held against his chest, small breaths tickling his skin. His steps echoed across stone, each one heavier than the last, but he did not stop. His mind replayed Emma's tears, Richard's fury, Michael's betrayal, and the nurse's truths. Each memory cut him deeper, but the warmth of the child anchored him. He whispered, "You didn't choose this, and neither did I. But we are bound now." His voice was cracked but resolute. He felt the sting of rejection, the weight of gossip waiting beyond these streets. Yet, with every beat of his heart, he realized survival was no longer just his own. It belonged to the small life clinging silently to him. "Ah," he whispered again, softer. "I won't let you be a shadow like I was." James stopped at the town square, where the night before had drowned him in judgment. Now it stood empty, the fountain still, birds perched silently along its edge. He looked around, memories pressing in. Emma collapsing in sobs, Richard's thunderous command, guests whispering like snakes in the dark. His chest burned, but he held the child higher, pressing a kiss against its forehead. "You are not their shame," he whispered. His voice broke, the words carrying across the square like a vow. His shoulders trembled, but his eyes lifted to the rising sun. "They tried to bury me, but I will not bury you." He knew the gossip would spread again, sharper than blades, but the silence of this morning gave him the courage to defy it. His tears fell freely now, a baptism in pain, yet his arms never loosened their hold. The square, once suffocating, now felt like a battlefield he had survived. As the hours passed, James wandered to the edge of the fields beyond town, where tall grass swayed in the soft breeze. The horizon stretched wide, free of walls and whispers, but heavy with choices. He sat beneath a lone oak tree, the baby lying quietly against his chest. He thought of Emma, the girl he once dreamed of forever, now only a wound. He thought of Richard, a man willing to shatter his own daughter to guard a crumbling name. And he thought of himself, broken, flawed, yet still standing. He whispered, "I have nothing left but you." His voice cracked, a confession both fragile and fierce. The baby stirred, tiny hands curling into his shirt, as if claiming him in silence. The field stretched endless, daring him to believe there was still life beyond betrayal. He lowered his head and whispered, "Then we'll walk this road together." James returned by dusk to the small house that once belonged to his mother. Its windows dusty, its door worn by years of storms. He pushed it open, the creak echoing like a ghost. Inside, shadows clung to familiar walls, but he found a chair near the window and sat with the baby. He remembered nights when his mother wept, abandoned and alone, yet she carried him through. His throat ached as he whispered, "She saved me even when she was broken. Maybe I can do the same." He rocked the child slowly, watching the sunset bleed across the sky, colors of fire and ash. The baby's breathing steadied, soft and even, pulling him into a calm he hadn't felt in years. He realized this house, once filled with sorrow, now had a chance to carry something new. His heart ached, but hope flickered like a fragile flame. Night fell, cloaking the town in silence, and James stood once more at the window, baby cradled against him. Stars shimmered faintly above, but the darkness inside him remained. His reflection in the glass showed hollow eyes and trembling hands, yet also the faint outline of the child clinging to him. He whispered, "They tried to take everything, and they did." His voice broke, heavy with grief. He pressed his lips to the baby's head, tears spilling freely. "But they will never take you." The words hung in the air like a vow etched into stone. His chest heaved, his heart cracked open, and the silence of the night seemed to hold him still. For a long moment, he breathed with the child, one broken man and one fragile life bound by fate. His final whisper was soft but unyielding, "You will always know who I am."